Welcome back, everyone. The video you're about to watch is part of a live stream series that I do on Twitch where I teach people how to build an Android app from start to finish by building a task management application. I've removed the episode numbers from the videos because it's designed that each one can be consumed individually. Each week, I pick a particular topic or feature and focus on just that for the live stream. If you are interested in watching the full playlist, check out the links in the description below. But if you just found this one and it intrigues you, I hope you enjoy it and let me know what you think. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome back. Hope you all had a great week. Um, Super excited to be back. I don't have a plan for tonight, so we're just gonna wing it. But we can talk about some ideas that I have had, and we can maybe do some work on the task management app, or maybe we want to explore something entirely different today. I'm actually just gonna get wireless debugging set up so I can actually do some stuff today. Let me do that real quick. And then I'll screen share and I can include my phone as well. If it wants to work. I'm not sure it does. Oh no. Classic. Anyways, let's share my screen and then we'll just start talking about some stuff. I do have one thing I want to do at the beginning. Well, I didn't merge the pull request from last week because I ended up having a static analysis issue and I totally forgot to check. But it should work now, so we're just waiting on the GitHub Actions to finish, and then we can do some more with that. Let's get the device pairing going here so we can go through our app and talk about a plan for today. No, not that. Nice. Okay, here we go. Get my phone up there. How's everyone doing? Hope you all had a good week. Anyone work on anything exciting this week? Have something cool you want to talk about? I don't know if there was any big Android news this week from Android. Not that I could think of. I really need to write stuff down when I see it so that we can talk about some of that, but let's get nice. We can get our device going. So let's take this and let's do a recap of what we did last week. Um, and we can talk through some ideas for what we could do this week. Happy Wednesday. Hoping to release your first thing for work. Your first thing. Haven't you been there for a while? Feel like you have to have had other releases. Also, well, the big thing, if you didn't see it on Twitter, is we have new sub badges. So WebShark has the ice cream sandwich next to his name. Uh, my chat further up has the pie, which is like the latest one right now. Um, it is Wednesday Android newsletter. You know what? Maybe I need to hop on the newsletter train. Um, Yeah, we have new sub badges that are all themed on the Android desserts. Not every dessert, but they are kind of like in order. So we've got cupcake, gingerbread, ice cream sandwich, um, cupcake, gingerbread, ice cream sandwich, Kit Kat, lollipop, and pie. And I forgot what the like month durations is, but the longer you've been subbed, the more recent version dessert you'll have next to your name. So like Web Shark's got the ice cream sandwich, there's the pie, but there's some others. You know what? If you want to see it in chat, you're just gonna have to subscribe. Um, but you can also find them on Twitter if you want to see what they look like. Um, yeah, let's talk about what we did on this app for last week. So last week we worked on building the empty states. So we have like this one empty state for not having any tasks at all. Um, and then once you add something, a task for a particular day, um, we have this like different state where we have our list of like incomplete tasks and then our completed tasks, and there would be an empty state beneath each one. Um, if that section should be empty. So here we have no completed tasks, so we just have this like label here. I would love to change all this copy, but it wasn't something that I like got too hung up on last week. But and then if I mark something as done, we have this nice little animation at the bottom, and now there's actually an empty state up here on incomplete tasks. So that's what we did last week, and that's what I am waiting on this uh, pull request build to finish, and then I can merge that code. But we can talk about or think about some things we might want to do today. Um, there's probably a lot. There's definitely features. I was considering doing some app modularization today. I hate that word, it's so weird to say. Um, I had posted a call out on Twitter. I should actually share it because there were some good resources in the replies. Let me pull it up actually. We'll talk about it. Because I get this question a lot on like if we're gonna turn this into a multi-module app or not, and what that process would look like. Um, and I've got a little bit of experience like creating other modules, but the biggest thing is like trying to decide what that folder structure should look like is what I wanted to see what other teams did. And so I tweeted this out. There were some good, I'll post this in chat if anyone wants to go read the replies. There were some good replies in there, some very thorough ones. So, like, uh, I think it's Jerome Moles posted this, like, 5-part blog post on modularizing your app. There's also this great code lab from Droid Kaigi, which is Android conference in Tokyo. Yes, Tokyo. And this one is really cool. This follows, like, reminds me of like the Google Code Lab setup. And so maybe that's something we can look at tonight. I hesitated on it because I'm really just curious about like the folder structure and seeing how other apps have done this, um, and how to make it actually like kind of helpful, you know. I think this one also had like a high level example. Um, this talks about like why we use modules, which is something we could spend a little bit of time talking about actually, is like why would we care about having a multi-module app? And there's a few benefits. There's I think the one that gets talked about the most is improving like local build times. So if I have like everything in one app module and I change one particular feature, that ruins the cache of like the whole app. And so the whole app needs to be rebuilt, right? But if I use modules and I have split this up into chunks of work, Gradle can like keep track of, oh, well, these pieces of code have already been compiled. I just need to recompile the portion that's changed. So your local build times are going to get a lot faster. Um, the other benefits of having things split up is like um, what do they call it? Speed up builds. Ooh, like on demand delivery. This is a thing that Android supports now where you could have like a feature module that doesn't get shipped with your app and users can download it like as needed when they use a feature. Um, simplifying development. This was basically saying that like if you have your code split up into individual chunks, that can be helpful. There's reusing across apps. So a cool example of this is like the way I imagine apps like Lyft and Uber work, where you have like your driver and your user apps, but there's obviously going to be shared code between them. So having modules for that shared code is helpful. Um, Oh, and I also like this one that I hadn't even thought of before, but the ability to experiment with new technologies. So if you wanted to try out a new piece of technology, and you used it in like one module without buying it across your entire application, that would be a really cool way to experiment with something like that. So I did like that idea. Um, and then there's scalability, of course. If you have a really big app and lots of teams, it's much easier if people are kind of working within modules. You probably have like less merge conflicts and stuff that way, for example. Um, so I think all the benefits are there for setting up a multi-module app. And in some ways, given our app, it only has like 3 screens right now, it's probably a good time to start thinking about it so that we could have this infrastructure in place. Um, but really just struggling to think about what that umbrella would look like. And let me try to address, like, I think in the second part, they show how they structured it, and I could talk about a little bit of what uh, am concerned about. Okay, so here's how I've seen it. I've seen this a lot where like your app is really split up into like feature modules. So each screen could be, let me see, another article. I have not seen this one. So I'll probably make a collection of all these if other people want to look at them, by the way. Um, yep, talking about all the same stuff. So this is what I want to talk about, the idea of layer versus feature separation. I like that they said this because this is my concern. I've seen what some apps will do is they'll take like they'll make like feature modules and they'll put everything for a feature in there, including like all of the UI code and stuff like that, which would be fine. But something that I experimented with over the weekend that I was thinking about with this is I was experimenting with like Kotlin multi-platform, and it got me thinking that if I was going to split this up into different modules, it might make sense to have like the modules be multi-platform capable. In which case, we're not really going to move over like all of our UI code necessarily, um, but really just like the domain and data layer for a given feature. And then, yeah, I guess maybe it is that simple. But so what I was thinking might be helpful is if I tried to make like a diagram of like what each module is and what are some of the files that are going to go in that module would probably be a really interesting way to start. Um, and maybe I'll read this because let me just skim this over and make sure I'm not missing anything because I've seen, yeah, let's maybe pull up Miro and try to build like a diagram of what this would look like with our application and how we would structure our modules here. Also, we're having a boozy Android dev stream tonight, so cheers. Um, can I make a new board? I have reached my board limit. Okay, that's fine. We can just go over here and put some new stuff. All right, so the way I've seen this so far, what I'm kind of thinking is like you have your app module. Oh, this is, can I, let's zoom in, make this better. So that's the first thing, right? You have your app module, and this depends on some sort of like feature module, right? Which would be like add task feature. Let's talk about that one as like something we could, is that the one? I don't know. See, I'm like, because I don't know what I'm doing, I'm having so much trouble like picturing this, but maybe this is exactly what I need to do to figure it out. So the question being like, well, what goes inside this feature module? And like, is there more? Is the question. Is like, is it everything from, well, it shouldn't be. Keep in mind, some things we know need to be shared across modules. So let's actually put them. I think this is the better way to think about it, even though it's going to get more confusing, is like, whoops, why is that font different? I don't know. Uh, why is that font different? Even though it looks more confusing, it's important to think about. So we'd have like task list feature, right? Both of these would go into our app module. So, but these two modules, they're going to have to share some stuff, like the task entity itself. And so, what I've seen as a solution to that is like maybe making like a core models module. And this would literally just be a bunch of data classes that are like our task. So far, that's all we have in this app. But let's put that down actually. So this would be like task.kt is like the file that would go, or like the thing that would go in here. Um, but then there's a question of like the data layer, and should the data go into its own module, or is that part of this? So, without thinking about splitting up further, some of the files that are going to be in here is like, well, let's see. I guess this is a good question. Like, so both of these would need to reference like task repository. And I mean, this is actually, now that I'm typing it, this is like a dead giveaway that I need sort of a third box here to hold that code that's then shared between these two features. Um, so we could do like, I don't know if I want to call it like, whoops, never mind, don't do that. I don't know if I want to call it like just data or if I want to call it like task data or something like that. Um, Actually, I noticed over here, uh, which one was it? This one I think talked about API implementation, and I think that was, oh, no, man, that's not it. I've seen some people split it up as having like a API module that is strictly just the interface, um, and then like an implementation module, which actually like has like your concrete like database or networking layer for that information. And then the benefit of that is like, so if we had like, you could do submodules. I'm not really sure what that means. Um, but yeah, then you could have a fake module for test, right? So the way I've seen that is like you would have like task API, which would just be this. And actually, so our feature, the way the way I saw this presented, our feature, these arrows are going to get kind of ugly here. Oh god. Um, Depends on the API, and then we would have another one that is like the implementation. So like task, whoops, implementation, right? And so what this would have is like room task database is what that is. That's like the real implementation. And I've seen that like the suggestion I saw was that the app is what references that, and then it hooks up these two things. So the feature module depends on the API, and so the feature module is less likely to change. API task list repository, API preference repository. I see. Are they really submodules, or those are just additional modules, right? Yeah, okay, it's just an organization sake thing. That makes sense. Um, yeah, Blue Moon is really good. Um, okay, so, but then what? So if I'm thinking, and maybe I'm wrong to think this way, so up to this point, well, actually, this one debatable. If I want each of these modules to be multi-platform support, then I wouldn't really use Room here. I would use like SQL to Lite, which I'm pretty sure can be multi-platform. But thinking about that, like what goes in here? Like, should it be? Is there any platform agnostic add task code um, that I could put in here? And I mean, I guess kind of. I could use the view models or at least the view state. Um, the view state could definitely go in there. I'm still thinking because of the way our app is structured, at least now, that we use like, well, right. So that's the question. Is then it's still like, I guess I was thinking, could I make this a platform agnostic module? But I think the answer to that might be no. That this is going to have Android code in it, like the view model and composables. Um, I don't think I have a way around. Yeah, that's fine if that's how we end up doing it, honestly. Um, but I suppose like, well, the other semi-related is like where would a use case live? But um, after like last week and the previous week's discussion, and also seeing Gabor tweet about this, I don't know how I feel about the use case pattern. I feel seem like somewhere it's helpful and somewhere it's not, and there's I'm having an internal debate on whether or not it's worth it for like the consistency, and like I'd rather have more classes that are like easy to swap in and out than less classes that are not easy to swap in and out. Um, I don't know. That's another thing I'm thinking about. But so this one, by the way, I guess this will technically start to look more like this. Um, so interesting. So yeah, so I guess the feature though, I guess if I wanted to keep the feature to be like, if I'm not worried about keeping that one platform agnostic, that's fine. Um, Although I feel like the view state doesn't have to have any UI references. So just I'm wondering if it makes sense to have like a the use cases could be multi-platform. They definitely could be. Um, they're just standard Kotlin classes. But um, well, so let's talk about let's put a hold on the multi-platform idea for now and think if I wasn't concerned about multi-platform, then what else is going to go in here? Well, we've got our view state. We'll have like add task screen.k3, add task view model. Um, and I mean, if we want to keep the use case or not, like would we have like add task like domain? So we've got task API, task implementation. It's like, would we have like task domain? And where would that live? Would that just be like the bridge between these two? Is that even necessary? Probably not actually necessary, no. Um, so maybe this is a good start. Um, well, and so this would follow the same as that basically. Let's um, pattern above. So we would basically duplicate this. I mean, we would have, well, I guess actually, now that I think about it, this feature would also, I mean, as far as the data goes, I guess it's effectively the same as Task API, unless I really wanted to make them two different API modules. But I feel like that's nitpicky. Um, so this would have like task list screen.kt, task list view state, task list view model. Is that? Feel like we're onto something here. Feel like this makes sense. That this is a good split. What are y'all's thoughts so far on how this looks? Um, and I would probably start like right to left. Like we could, we'll start with like the core models. We'll just move over the task one. This will be interesting if spoiler alert from my own thing. If we move into sort of multi-platform support, we're gonna really need to rethink using Java date times, which is what our app uses now. But there is like a Kotlin X date time that could be used. Um, this is almost how you do it. Okay, so what's slightly different with how you do it? Well, so that's I don't think it has to. Um, but so let me explain like the thought process. So Task API should the idea here is that this is just interfaces and it has like the contract of that data API, right? And then the implementation is like that concrete version, which could be room and or networking, um, or whatever else. And so we could have this go straight into here, but I guess then it's just actually I don't know why isn't that? The argument I had seen when I read that approach was to have like um they basically said that like your app module is the only place like Dagger's going to live, so it can configure like what all these dependencies are. So rather than your add task feature know what the implementation is, it just depends on the API, and then in the app module you configure all those dependencies. But I feel like that's not that big of a deal because if I want to change what this uses, I just change this module, and that should be fine. Um, And then to Matt's point, like for testing, we just basically duplicate this and we make like a task API test module, which could have like fake task repository or something. And then anywhere we want to do tests, we just do like a test implementation on this, which I guess would technically be like this one, could also depend on that. Something. Right. Yeah, I see what you're saying. So it would probably look more like this. Um, but do you think API and implementation should still be different modules? Um, I feel like that makes sense to do it that way, to keep them as separate things. Um, while we're thinking on that, and before we start adding new code, let's see if that GitHub Actions we were waiting on has completed. Nice, it did. Um, yeah, well, we can probably start down this path and we can see where it leads us. And but we'll start with this idea, and we'll start, like I said, we'll start right to left. Let's get like the multi-module configuration working, where we have like a core models module, and move over like our task entity. And then once we know that that works, we can build our task API module, and then we can keep going. So let's do that. I think I had a uh, issue for modularization already. Projects, um, developer experience. Nice. Support multi-module. We can move this to in project. So TOA 82. So let's check out development. Pull. And then we'll do git checkout TOA 82 core models module. So actually, let me look at plugins. So, because I think, yeah, there's a KMM module that I'm going to install real quick, and I might need to restart Android Studio. Um, let's find out. Let me check this. Yeah, I have to restart Android Studio in order for this to appear. Another thing that I found useful is to put each shared slash reusable composable in its own module. That's definitely valid. So something that I didn't include here that I should have thought about is like, so we have core models. It also makes sense for there to be like um, core UI, right? And so this would have like primary button.kt, you know, material theme, um, TOA text field, right? Um, this all makes sense as something. And then, so if our feature is where some of the UI lives, it would also depend on core UI. Um, do you think a module per component is a little too much, though? That's kind of my thought. Like, it feels like that's just a lot of Gradle files and stuff for, um, yeah, but I mean everyone's different, right? Like I guess there's benefits in having it so granular that you can truly choose what you need to depend on. You know, maybe I don't need to depend on all these, but the other side of that coin is like, well, if you're very careful about what goes into core UI and if it's truly a core component, then it would still work out. Like I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. Um, but let's restart Android Studio real quick. Um, just restart. So